To talk about all of this, we've reached out once again to Duncan Kirkwood. He developed an app that helped people document their encounters with police. It's called Hands Up for Justice. Duncan was with us yesterday, and he rejoins us again today from Buffalo, New York. And so, Duncan, I can't believe that we're talking today about another tragedy. What was your reaction when you heard about the shooting and the killing of these 5 Dallas police officers?
I thought it was horrible. You know, I woke up to the news this morning, just like most of the country, and it was scary because it feels like the start of some sort of, back and forth, almost civil war type of, energy, and it's very destructive, and it's just scary. It's going to heighten the sensitivity, the fear, the anger that police already have towards black men. Now it's going to be elevated even more around the country, which is going to only create more instances of violence.
So that is, yesterday when I spoke to you, Duncan, you were more optimistic. I'm sensing today that you are more pessimistic, given what happened last night in Dallas.
Well, I don't know if I want to say pessimistic. I stay in prayer, so I try to always be optimistic. But, the more people see things on social networks, the more it's going to touch their emotions in a way that print won't do, that it won't do on, other type of mediums. But, it's something special to be said about when you see it for yourself and you actually get that emotional tug. You tear up yourself. You get enraged in your home. And so that's going to spark, reactions from people. Everybody's reaction will be different, and violence is never the right reaction. Retaliation against the police is never the correct response. But that being said, you have to expect at some point an oppressed people who are continuously, systematically being murdered, then sent to a justice system and incarcerated, which is the new slavery. And at some point, there's going to be a slave revolt, just like there was during the times of slavery. And I'm not saying this is right or it should happen, but I'm saying at what point, how far do you think you can push a people with violence and terror and fear before somebody responds in a violent way? And, violence is not the answer to violence, but silence is not the answer to violence either. So it was only kind of a matter of time before we saw something like this happen, unfortunately. And again, it's inconsolable. My hearts go out to the families, and I can't imagine what they're going through. We don't want people to create the pain that our community is already mourning from right now.
What do you think when you hear you say a civil war type of scenario? We just heard the Dallas police chief say, "We will not let this vermin steal our democracy from us." I mean, these are very strong words. Do you think we're at some kind of very serious seminal moment in the United States?
Yeah, we are definitely at a watershed moment. And when you hear people say things like, "We're not going to let this vermin steal our democracy," there's this kind of national outrage today because somebody killed some innocent police officers, which is incredibly wrong. But where was that same national rage from the police community, from the elected officials, the attorney general? Everybody from the top down spoke out on it today. But what about yesterday and the day before when they were murdering, when 2 black men got murdered? There wasn't that same level of rage and that same level of this vermin that, and this is threatening our democracy this. We didn't hear that then. We just heard this was sad. Our hearts go out to the families. We've got to work on this issue. But today, everybody's up in arms because there was a retaliation. And, it's unfortunate that it comes to that, but sometimes it takes something to happen for people to, be able to get involved and for people to get pushed to the point where action is necessary. Now, hopefully something positive can come from all this and not more violence. But this was only a matter of time before something happened.
These videos that we're seeing, of police violence, they're obviously giving people around the world a window into the lived experiences of many African Americans when it comes to dealing with police. But is this a double-edged sword? Do you feel as though, do you have concerns that what is happening with live streaming, or that it is somehow hitting people in a visceral way that is leading some, or at least one, to believe that revenge is an answer?
That question is so profound. On one hand, I understand the point of view that by giving this lens into this violence that Black people, especially Black men, have to endure at the hands of law enforcement, will strike a nerve that's going to continue to get people enraged to take violent actions against, law enforcement. But on the other hand, concealing it is not the answer either. People need to see what's going on so they understand. I mean, if we had they had live streamed what they did to Emmett Till, then we would have had violence back then in the same way we're seeing the violence today. But because that was done, people read about it across the country, hearing about it and reading about it was enough to get them to march, right? But if they had seen it, there might have been a different reaction. So now us being able to see what's going on, so no one can deny it, not the Black community, not the white community, not the police community, no one can deny what's going on. So because of that, people have to take action to rectify it, right? You just can't allow people to be murdered live on Facebook and by the law enforcement officers that are sworn to protect you. However, there will be some people who see that and react in a very, very violent way. But there will be other people, like here in Buffalo tonight, we have a Black Lives Matter rally in conjunction with the city, and hopefully the police department will be there as well. And so it's inspiring some people to take action in a positive and constructive way. But, all Black people are not the same. We're not all painted with one brush. So what might draw me to action of writing a letter might draw someone else action to, have a more aggressive encounter with law enforcement. And, we never promote violence, but people are going to have different reactions when they see people are being murdered systematically, and then there's no accountability for it in our justice system.
So what do you do to try and make sure that going forward that this doesn't lead to even worse divisions between police and African Americans, that this somehow leads to a more peaceful and a better relationship? What needs to happen? Because you brought that up, that you think that because of these shootings of these police officers in Dallas, this could actually make the situation even worse than it already is. Right.
So yes, it definitely has got police on heightened tensions. They're more angry. They're more afraid. Police across the country, the 800 police officers across our country, they feel like they're a fraternity, like they're a brotherhood. And so when one of them is murdered or attacked or killed especially in this fashion, they're going to want to retaliate too, right? It's going to continue this eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, which is going to leave our whole country blind and toothless, right, at the end of the day. And so it's worrisome that it could escalate things, but it's also forcing a national conversation in a way that we've never had before. And so hopefully that conversation will beget some sort of results that are positive for all communities. And I think it starts with our leadership. See, we don't have Black leaders anymore. All our old civil rights leaders got old, turned in, and they decided that they wanted to be the school board members, the legislators, the teachers union members. And now they're sitting on their six figures and they don't want to fight no more. So the new generation has got to fight the power, but we don't have any leaders.
But Duncan, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but the President of the United States is African American. The Attorney General is African American. The police chief in Dallas we saw was African American. So there is the leadership there. So how can all of this be happening with, the pinnacle of power being a Black president?
Well, so because someone is in a leadership position doesn't make them a leader on this issue or these type of Black issues. I'm gonna say that again. Because they're in a leadership position doesn't mean they're a leader on these types of issues. All through our history, movements, social justice movements have been led by credible Black organizations with powerful leadership at the helm, pushing people to push the government and the system to affect change. And it's never been, one elected official or some appointed position decides they're going to make a difference for all Black people and it happens. That's not how it goes. Change comes from the bottom up. And at the bottom level, our leadership is lacking. Our traditional civil rights organizations, Black Greek letter organizations, all these organizations that used to do so much good, they're now having conferences and giving each other awards every other month, while it's still people in the poor communities of the black parts of town that are struggling to survive, that are in terror of the police, that need help, and there's no one there to do it. So we need real leadership to lead our people in the right direction, to build relationships with the police department, to demand community policing and 21st century police tactics. But we don't have it. And so people like myself and others like Katrina Bordeaux, who's our leader in the Black Lives Matter movement here in Buffalo, and other community leaders across the country at the lowest level have to continue to push hard, because we're not just fighting the status quo, we're fighting other Black people who don't want to give up the little bit of power and credibility that they have, whether they got it through their church, some elected position, or they did something great 50 years ago. And so we fight in two fronts in order to move our people in a world that is very different than it was in the 60s and the 70s.